So how much muscle have I gained over the past 2 years? Now, this is admittedly a little bit of a self-centered video, so I want to try to make it as broadly useful as possible. Essentially, how to track your progress over time. If your goal is muscle growth, how do you make sure that you're growing muscle? Now, first of all, you should be making progress even if you are advanced. I saw a comment a little while ago. I screenshotted it. Bro, I came back after 3 years and you look even bigger. LMFAO WTF. Well, first of all, welcome back to the channel. It's been a while. And second of all, I don't think it should really be surprising to see that someone makes progress in 3 years, even if they are advanced. That should be a given, an expectation. So there are going to be 4 different methods or metrics that you can use. The first are going to be pictures where you can assess your body fat percentage. If you are roughly the same body fat percentage, but 2 years later you're a little bit heavier, that difference is more than likely muscle growth. You can talk about, water retention, you could talk about hydration status, you could talk about something else, but like, what did your pancreas grow? If you gain lean body mass in the context of using weights, you probably gained muscle. Now, it's not the only metric, but I think it's a pretty good one, especially the leaner you are. If you talk to advanced natural lifters who compete, if you gained 4 pounds of stage weight, you probably gained muscle. Or if you are the same weight, but you look slightly leaner later, that is also a pretty good indication of gaining muscle. Now, I get asked about DEXA scans a lot. I've never had a DEXA scan. And this is mostly because, well, first of all, it's a pain in the ass to try to find somewhere. I just roll up to a Chinese university. So can you put me in the scanner? Yeah, no, not for me. If you want to get a DEXA, that's fine. But I've seen enough DEXAs that are just total dog shit that I think it's just not very useful. The margin of error is a lot higher than most people think. Here is Kinobody at 8.1% body fat. I would not assess him at 8.1% body fat. Now, everyone's going to look a little bit different at a certain body fat percentage, but I really doubt he's 8.1 body fat percent here. It's just, I'm very skeptical of that number. And I've also seen it the other way. Steve Hall of Revive Stronger, I remember he got a DEXA a while back, and he was basically stage ready or very close to a show, and it told him he was 11 something percent. He was not 11%, okay? Or at very least, how can someone look like that and 8% and then look like this-ish and 11%? It just doesn't really make sense. And so, yeah, when I see a fitness transformation, they're like, I gained 3 pounds or 2 pounds or 4 pounds because the DEXA said so. It's not as accurate as most people think. And there should be a margin of error, but for some reason, it just spits out one number, right? It should say we're 95% confident that you're between 8.1 and 10.3, but no, it just gives you a single number, and that's how you know it's shit. So let's get to some pictures. Here on the left, April 3rd, 2023. On the right, June 11th, 2025. Now you can see, I think the arm looks a little bit bigger. I'm a little bit paler on the left. It's a different camera, so the left shots, the before shots will look a little bit paler. But I would say this is roughly the same body fat percentage or very, very close. Maybe there's a little bit more shoulder vascularity on the left, but this is very, very close in terms of body fat percentage. I think the triceps have improved slightly. Delts, chest is definitely improved. There's a slightly different posture here, but overall, I would say this is going from 91.8 kilos on the left, and then the right, 93.9 kilos. So I'm 2 kilos heavier on the right at roughly the same body fat percentage, and that is a good sign. Here's another picture. It's sort of a crucifix pose. On the left is actually December 30th, 2022, so near the beginning of last cut. And then on the bottom is July 7th, 2025, and I'm 95 kilos. So I'm roughly the same body weight here, but I would say I am a little bit leaner on the right. You can see maybe there's a little bit less face chub. The arms are a little bit leaner. The forearms are a little bit leaner. And the lats have improved markedly. I think the delts have improved a little bit here as well. And so even though I'm the exact or very, very close to the same body weight, I am visibly leaner on the bottom. So that's a good sign as well. All right, next one, doing a cable row here. And this is roughly the same body fat percentage, maybe a little bit leaner on the right even, but not very much. I would say these are very, very close. February 5th, July 9th, so a little over 2 years here. And I'm actually a full 2 kilos heavier on the right here. However, you do have to be sometimes a little bit careful about comparing during a cut versus during a bulk. So this is post-cut on the right, and so you tend to fill out a little bit more. Your glycogen stores go up a little bit. And so ideally you would compare cut to cut or bulk to bulk. And so that could be a slight factor here. Next picture, December 30th, 2022, May 25th, 2025. And again, I am 95-ish kilos here. So the same weight, but I think, and paler on the top, again, different cameras. But I would say I am slightly leaner on the bottom, like a little bit of a delt vein, biceps veins more pronounced, traps pretty much the same. They haven't really been a main focus, but I would say this is pretty visible increase in size. Sometimes you can just see it, right? Like the rear delts sweep out a little bit more, or the biceps look a little bit fuller. And so again, same body weight or very similar, but looking leaner and looking bigger as well. Here's a back double biceps. The left, I was pretty darn lean here, down to 88.4 kilos. And on the right, this is roughly where I stopped this diet, 93.8 kilos. However, I am visibly leaner on the top. You can see much more definition in the arms between the brachialis and the biceps and the triceps. Delts are leaner, mid back is leaner, lower back is a little bit leaner as well. And so I am clearly leaner on the top. And so that means I gained less than 5 kilos of muscle, which I think was pretty obvious, but it's good to kind of say, okay, I'm leaner here, not leaner here. I definitely gained less than that amount as well. All right, so here's another back double biceps, and you can see on the top, I'm actually not nearly as lean as the previous picture. In fact, I would say I am a little bit higher in body fat percentage than the bottom picture in this one. However, I am actually 1.4 kilos heavier on the bottom. So I would say this is an indicator that I've actually gained at least 1.4 kilos, so about 3-ish pounds of muscle during this 2 years. So that's kind of like a minimum at this point, 1.4 at least, but less than 5. So somewhere between 1.4 and 5 is what we're looking at right now. All right, so here's a front double biceps comparison, 91.7 kilos versus 93.9 kilos. And I would say these are roughly the same body fat percentage, very, very close. And you can see the triceps, a little bit sweepier, the biceps, a little bit peakier. I think the chest has shown notable and marked improvements as well. And the lats, it's a little bit difficult to compare with different clothes, but they do look significantly better as well. And then the lower body, perhaps the quads look a little bit better as well. With different lighting and different poses, it's a little bit difficult to compare, but I would say that is a very, very good sign, being 2.2 kilos heavier and roughly the same body fat percentage. And then here's sort of a side tricepsy, side chest, where I am 91.8 on the left and 94 flat on the right. Again, a little bit paler on the left, new camera. But I would say these are roughly the same or very, very similar body fat percentage. And so that would be indicative of around 2 and a little bit kilos of muscle growth. Now, if you are a professional natural bodybuilder or you really care about being super exact with your metrics, yeah, take pictures under the same lighting, the same poses, the same conditions, the same hydration status. Try to have everything the same. Has to be the same day of the week in your training plan so that your biceps aren't still pumped from a workout or something. For me, I don't care that much, and I can still see if I'm making progress without being super, super exact with the same exact setup before and after. So for me, it's just not that important. But if it is for you, then you're going to have to be a little bit more exact with things. Now, do I think a before and after picture is going to be better than a DEXA? Honestly, maybe. I know that's maybe not as sciencey. You don't get the hard numbers, but I've seen enough dog shit DEXAs where I think a before and after picture is often just as good. And if you're getting people compliment you and say, oh, you're growing, or you're getting bigger, or like this area looks better, like people can see just as well as a DEXA. So I would say a DEXA is pretty much never needed, and it's not nearly as good as a lot of content creators think. And if you look at, Kinabody trying to market his plans by saying how lean he is on a DEXA, who cares? The number doesn't matter that much. And I think people put way too much faith in a DEXA. Now, the second method is going to be taking measurements. So you take neck measurement, arm measurement, forearm measurement, chest, shoulders, waist, mid-thigh, and then calves. And then you track that over time. It's going to be slow. Okay, I'm not going to be putting an inch on my arms in a year. But you can use this data over time. It's not exact. It's not everything, but it is a useful metric. And if you're the same body weight, but your arms are up half an inch, you gain muscle there. And it also helps if you take multiple measurements before and multiple after. I have 1 after and 3 before. My forearms haven't really improved in size overall, but I also haven't really trained them. They haven't really been a focus. I haven't been doing specific forearm work. I have in the past, but if you don't train something specifically, it probably won't grow. Same thing for neck. Almost no change, but I also haven't trained it. The training absolutely matters. Upper arms, however, have markedly improved, and I would say overall for both right and left, they're up about half an inch or so over the past 2 years. So I had a video a while back in 2021 to 2022, how I gained an inch on my arms in a year. That's not going to happen anymore. That's just, it's impossible, or I don't want to say impossible, but it's probably just not going to happen because I'm more advanced, and you do get diminishing returns over time. Plus, the bigger your arms get, the harder it is to get them bigger because it's more muscle mass for every inch, right? Going from 17 to 18 is less muscle than going from 18 to 19. So things are slowing down, but I kind of knew they would. Chest looks to be up about half an inch. Jojo just sneezed. He's allergic to chest. Shoulders about an inch or so. Again, neck hasn't really changed. Mid-thigh has not changed much either. Maybe up very, very slightly, or perhaps slightly leaner as well. You store fat on an area, so if it looks a little bit leaner at the same measurement, it probably grew a little bit. Calves actually up slightly. I've done a little bit of calf training, but not much. Hips, basically no change. However, the biggest one, the waist, is markedly smaller at roughly the same weight. So that's a really good sign. If you're the same weight, smaller waist, probably going to be leaner, and so you probably gained lean body mass. So the most important measurement for a bodybuilder is the waist, because that is a sign of leanness, and that is what matters for tracking progress more than your mid-thigh or your arms or whatever. So waist measurement, very, very important. The third way to track would be your levels of strength over time. Now, you should be tracking this anyway using an app like Boostcamp. By the way, this video is sponsored by Boostcamp. So yes, you should be tracking your training, as the past me from about 5 seconds said. You want to be seeing that progression over time. And if you are not getting stronger for reps over time, you are probably not building muscle. Plus, you get access to a ton of plans on the app. I myself have a bunch up there. So you're confused, you're not really sure what to do. There's a lot of information coming your way. Hop on a fixed plan, be observant, and get those gains. So once again, thank you to Boostcamp for sponsoring this video. However, there are certainly a few caveats for your levels of strength. I think they should be moderate reps, right? If your 1 rep max goes up, that could be technique, that could be neurological, it could be explosiveness, that kind of stuff. If it's very high reps, like, oh, my 50 rep max went up, you could have just gotten better at pushing yourself. You could have gotten better strength endurance, better aerobic capacity. And so I would say 5 to 15 is a pretty good rule of thumb. Cardio might be the limiting factor for a set of 15 on squats, but I think for most stuff, a set of 15, it's still going to be very, very correlated for you and your levels of muscle mass for the given areas. You also have to have pretty similar technique. If you are changing your tempo or you're getting more bounce out of the bottom position or you're cutting the range of motion or whatever it is, that is no longer a valid comparison. And when you're more advanced, that could be months worth of progress. You also should be comparing cut to cut and bulk to bulk. If you say, oh, my level of strength when I'm on a cut, I'm for bench, you can't compare that to your levels of strength when you're bulked up because it's essentially a different lift with different leverages. And pretty much every lifter will notice this. When you're bulked up, a barbell bench press is just a different animal compared to when you are a lot leaner. You also want to look at more general trends rather than PRs. I think PRs are important and they're fun to do.
Because I'm going to peak so hard that everybody in Philadelphia is going to feel it.
But what can you hit most of the time for a given lift? What is your baseline? So not a great performance, not a terrible performance. What could you hit most days of the week? And probably for multiple sets as well. If you can only hit it once and then your performance drops way off, I would say that's probably not a great sign. And so kind of just what is your baseline level of performance? And so when I look at my dumbbell incline bench press performance, back in sort of spring to summer of 2023, I was typically hitting 40 kilos per hand, 88 pounds for like 6, 7, 8 reps. Whereas nowadays I'm doing roughly the same performance, but with the 45 kilo dumbbells. Same thing for chest supported rows. The same performance with the 40s, I'm now roughly hitting with the 45s or even the 50s. So these are very strict movements. My technique has changed a little bit on chest press, making it more challenging actually, but performance has definitely improved for those lifts. Same thing for back extensions. I'm roughly 10-ish% stronger. For squat patterns on the leg press, I am stronger, and I'm also doing it in a way that is more challenging because I've slid slightly up the pad, making it more quad dominant. So if you're going out of your way to make a lift more challenging because you want it to be more biased on a certain area, but you are still just as strong or stronger, despite doing it in a way that's more difficult, that is a very, very good sign. And on some lifts, I've gained like 4, 5, 6 reps over the past 2 years. Some have gained a little bit more, but on a lot of lifts, there just hasn't been huge amounts of progress. So I bulked all the way up to like 106 kilos, 230 plus pounds, and then cut back down. And my performance is better, noticeably better. And I'm, again, noticeably bigger, I would say, but I haven't gained massive amounts of strength. And advanced natural lifting, it's slow. It's slow. And so if you're gaining 1 rep every 2, 3, 4 months or slower, you have to be really, really dialed in with how you are tracking things. And so I would say I've gained 4 to 5 pounds of new muscle over the past 2 to 2.5 years. Now, I think a lot of people would be disappointed with that amount of progress, especially I probably put in about 400 or 500 hours per year in the gym. So I'm in there 5 to 6 days a week. My nutrition is very on point. My sleep is very on point. I'm living very much a dedicated bodybuilder lifestyle to gain probably about 2 to 2.5 pounds of muscle per year. And that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm doing anything wrong. It's just that when you're more advanced, things do slow down. I haven't hit a limit yet, clearly, but there's probably going to be a time when I bulk up and then I cut down, and over the course of a year, maybe I've gained 1 pound and then 0.5 pound. And then later, you really can't even see the difference from the before and the after. So I'm into training about 11 years. And so at a certain point, when you have a number of really, really good years under your belt, there probably just won't be very much progress. You can always make these very minor incremental gains, but at a certain point, things do slow down significantly. And I think mentally, you kind of need to be ready for that. And you can always learn more. You can always push back against that. You can always try new things. There are always new gains to be gained. They're just going to be smaller. However, advanced muscle sits differently. If you gain 1 pound as an advanced lifter, It's different from like a beginner gaining a pound or even an intermediate gaining a pound. I mean, if you gain a pound as a beginner, you can't even really see it. But if you gain a pound a year for 5 years as an advanced natural lifter, especially if you're on the leaner side, 5 pounds of muscle, you can absolutely see that. That's 20 quarter pounders worth of muscle strapped all over your body. And I'm very much a student of the sport, and I follow other lifters' journey, and I'm very in tune with how other natural lifters have progressed over time. And so I knew I wasn't going to be gaining 4 or 5 pounds a year in perpetuity. It just wasn't going to happen. And so that rate has roughly been cut in half from my previous 2021 to 22 bulks, where now I'm roughly 2.5 pounds per year. And from here on, it might be even slower. And I'll just say it's a good thing I like to train. If you don't, it's just not worth it. If you're very outcome driven, natural bodybuilding's not for you. And then the fourth one, which I kind of forgot to do, is how you look and comments from people who see you on a regular basis. Could be on the internet, could be in real life. But if you get multiple people saying, oh, like this guy blew up or this guy is bigger, even if it's only objectively 2 pounds of muscle a year, that is a really, really good sign. So let's say you go into the office and your coworkers are like, have you been working out? That's a sign of something, okay? Because even the average person can see if you are building muscle or can see if you are getting leaner. It doesn't take a PhD to tell if you're gaining muscle. So yeah, probably 4 pounds, could be 5 pounds, could be 3 pounds, probably somewhere in that range if I had to bet. I'm very certain it's more than 2 pounds. I'm also pretty darn sure it's under 6 pounds. So yeah, somewhere between 3 and 5 pounds of muscle gained over the past 2 years, which I'm not thrilled about, but it's also pretty good considering I've been training for 11 years now. And if you want to know way more about tracking your progress and how to get over plateaus as an intermediate or advanced lifter, Resurrecting Your Gains is going to be the best option for you. It is tens of thousands of words of how to get better at this muscle building thing over time. So thank you so much for the support. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Peace.
And that's just the way of the world.